Yeah, so how does everything tie into, how does my observation of this particular city tie into like reality, or let's say God's picture of the earth and world history and just life in general. I think it has to do a lot with Protestant movement, which is, I think, here it should be pretty prevalent because we're not so Southern, so we shouldn't be completely Catholic here. I think there should be a lot of Protestants here who believe they can interpret the Word of God by themselves. They don't need a church to interpret that for them. So in that regard, it plays perfectly into world history. As you guys know, the Renaissance and Industrial Revolution was 100% not only was it influenced, but carried by free thought that originated in the Protestant movement, that let people understand in Europe they can read the Word of God and make their own conclusions. They can start their own business. They have particular rights that God gave them. So the Bible became much more prevalent. So all the families basically got equipped with the sword of the Bible, which is the Word of God. And in that regard, in that reality, really what happened is that they could really move through life and prosper, right? They weren't slaves anymore to worldly powers that much. I mean, of course, they were not like anarchists or something like that, even though you could say that for the American pilgrimage, in a sense. Well, maybe even not, because there's a whole different story to that. But I mean, they were not taking everything for granted which anyone told them. They were pretty well versed in reality by just reading the Word of God in their native language, which was basically the project of Martin Luther, to empower the people with the Word of God and take the power away from worldly kings or the church. Not to take it away completely. I mean, I don't mean that. I mean to not let anybody tell you what God basically wants from you, right? Or what God allows you to have and what rights He gave you. So yeah, that pretty much plays into the reality of the city, to be honest with you. The city is not really, I think maybe if I took a guess it would be 50% Catholic, 50% Protestant, but also 50%. I mean, they made a big impact. You can see it. Whereas if I go more south, it feels a lot more constrained. Like, it feels a lot more shackled. It feels a lot less free thought over there. The more I go south in Europe, even in Germany. It has some good elements as well, I'm not gonna deny that. But when it comes just to freedom and stuff, it's just not up there, bro. It's just not up there. There's something special that Martin Luther did. It's just something really special he did for mankind. Martin Luther should be considered one of the greatest heroes the world has ever seen, to be honest with you. I'm not even gonna lie. I think his contributions to the civilized world is, bro, it comes right after, if in my book, in my understanding of things, how I see it, how I analyze it, I think he comes right after Muhammad and Jesus and Moses, like the prophets. Comes right after that. To a level, honestly, bro, so even some companions and apostles of the prophets and the Messiah, they don't I mean, they did crazy work. Crazy. They changed the world for good. But Martin Luther's up there, man. Trust me, he's up there, bro. If you just think about how the civilized world, after the fall off, literally, of the Islamic world, how the West came to such a power is just by, as I said, individual rights being recognized and practiced. And that's all based on a biblical worldview. And that biblical worldview was only possible to be evident by translating it to the tongues of the people that were reading it. And so it's not enough if it's just a bunch of priests to understand it and tell the people like robots like what to understand it. But no, everybody should read it and understand it and practice it. And that's how modern day Germany came to its glory. That's how England came to its glory. Result of it, Industrial Revolution. And then, well, Germany and England alone carried the whole earth. They were basically the creators of the United States of America. And those three powers, Germany, England, and the United States, pretty much defined. They pretty much defined the face of the modern world. That's what I understand. I mean, France's contributions to all of this, not as much as England, Germany, and the United States. Not to be compared, honestly. That's I'm not saying they don't have anything good at all. They do have a lot of good things, but it's just not the same. And if you travel to France, you will feel a different atmosphere, more constrained, more authority over your thoughts. But if you go to Germany, you feel it in the air that there's a certain degree of freedom that your soul experiences, right? And then I was never in the United States, but could only imagine that there is even bigger. Should somebody be hyped because of that? Yeah, because if you apply the lessons in for the Muslims, you make people understand that they can read the Quran and understand it for themselves for the most part. Not to say that nobody can explain that and that the explanations are invalid or stuff like that, not at all. But just that the people can understand it better. And you implement that into your life as a person. You might be hyped for the future, bro. I'm pretty optimistic about all of this. This is where we'll take a literal U-turn. I'll take a literal U-turn right now. My round is over, guys. I think there's a bunch of stuff still to be explored here, but let me cut the video and show you the view real quick.